President.
Yeah, that's all.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to session. September 10th, 2024. There will be an executive session following tonight's meeting to discuss legal issues. Okay, looks like there's no public here, so we will start the meeting. Planning and zoning, Mr. DeCrosta.
Thank you, Madam President. Is there a manager's report?
There is, want to update everyone that after last week's meeting with Forest Hills Community Alliance and Forest Hills Forward, I was finally able to actually meet with Jackie Dempsey, talk about their plans, how it aligned with what the borough was looking for, and begin to develop that relationship so that we can move forward in the, at least in the spirit, if not exactly in the pieces that Forest Hills Forward presented, so that we can keep economic development moving. Also, I did not have any update from Action Housing on the housing development at the West.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was wondering about that. The last two planning meetings have been canceled due to lack of attendance. And I think the first one was no business. Second one was lack of attendance. I did recommend that we meet anyway, just to kind of get things started, start discussing, and they just said they wanted to wait until September. So hopefully I'll have a report for you soon. Otherwise, I have nothing else to report.
Thank you, Mr. DeCrosta. We'll be moving on to finance then. Mr. Erbeldinger?
Thank you, President Martin. Yeah, we have a manager's report. I think Seth, you have a bunch.
Okay,
To report.
for this, I actually have a number of items. First, we have received the 2025 minimum municipal obligation paperwork for our pensions. I am pleased to report that I believe as anticipated, they are decreasing. So the council does need to be informed of these. For the 2025 budget, the defined contribution plan is at 16,442. The non-uniform employees pension plan is actually has a MMO of 2,771. And I did double check that with our actuary. And the police budget MMO is down to $308,046. So this is good news on the front of the general fund. Second, as I had mentioned in my manager's report last week, sewage billing, I am recommending that council approve moving forward with Wilkinsburg Penn Joint Water Authority as the biller for 2025. The earliest that they would be able to start would be January, so that actually works out well. It's going to end up having a net cost of about $5,000 a quarter over what we already spend between the revenues, the additional revenues they're likely to collect, our decrease of billing and other pieces. And obviously there are numerous benefits for residents in that it will be a somewhat smaller bill and all on one bill. So they're writing one check each month as opposed to a small one every month and then a large one every quarter.
Can I just clarify? It would be one bill, one check for water and sewage combined.
Yes, as a resident, you'll pay one monthly payment to Wilkinsburg Penn, and then they will forward payments to us on a bi-weekly basis.
Okay.
Will there be an additional cost to the residents for this new status?
No, I am factoring it's a 3% charge, and with the increase in what they will be collecting, they have a slightly higher collection average than we do. And with our increased sewage fee that we've already implemented, that's where I'm saying it's going to end up costing the borough about $5,000 a quarter. No change to the residents. There will be a resolution next week. We are changing our depository for our earned income tax. Historically, that had gone into a separate bank account for unknown reasons. And to change it to go into our standard general fund, Keystone is requiring a resolution. So that's all that is. We're just going to be having it go straight into the general fund. PennDOT winter maintenance agreement. Again, this is a resolution to, in this case, to authorize me to sign off on it. It is the standard contract. Matter of fact, this is the last year of a 5-year contract where they pay us to perform plowing on Ardmore Boulevard and Braddock Road. Not sure if there's a couple other spots.
So they cover the cost of the county roads.
Of the state roads.
State, okay. And what about the county roads?
County takes care of their own
Okay.
in this case. And then we get a flat fee, whether it snows or not. And if there is excessive beyond, then we can apply for additional funding. And then finally, just a kind of a general spending recommendation for the remainder of 2024. And part of this is just because I am new here and still getting a handle on the complexity of the budget. I am recommending that we go into a semi-austerity mode on larger projects. If we end up with spare funds at the very end of the year, we can, and because there's nothing that's really time sensitive, we can always reallocate the money in January or look to spend it at the end, but that we spend at least October and November, not looking to do any pre-approved projects that we haven't already been discussing. And that concludes my report.
And I think you want to talk about liquid fuels. I think you skipped that.
Sorry. Liquid fuels, I had met with Mr. Erbaldinger, President Martin, and Mr. Watkins, and saw that we were underutilizing our liquid fuels funding. We've actually been building up a nice surplus over the past few years. So we're just going to be changing our process to free up some general fund expenditures such as street lighting, traffic lighting, and such to better utilize that on an annual basis. And then after my meeting with Lennon Smith today, so this is hot off the presses, we're probably going to be recommending to use a large chunk of the excessive surplus to actually break out a large chunk of paving in 2025.
Good. That would be on top of our normal paving budget.
Correct. Right now, I'm estimating that we should be able to, actually, I know we will be able to pull between 300,000 and 400,000 additional, so almost double our budget in 2025 and knock out a good chunk of roads.
Just for my own edification, any surplus on liquid fuels we can legally use for other purposes, that's right? Is it a certain amount?
We can use up to our full amount on any year. Anything that we don't use, we can save and stack together as we've been doing, but the limitations on what you can use it for remain the same. So there are certain roads, only certain roads you can use it for. We cannot use liquid fuels money for alleyways.
Oh, okay.
There are a couple other restrictions. You can use liquid fuels for pretty much anything that is directly road related. So any other road maintenance like crack sealing, purchase of asphalt, salt, street lights, traffic lights, street signs. Those are the easiest ones that you need the fewest hoops to jump through. And we had only been using it actually for salt.
Yeah. And street lines we plan to permanently pay with liquid fuels going forward. Because we accumulated like, I think, 3 years worth of excess. And now we try to keep it more balanced by putting street lights permanently on liquid fuels. So it will help us in our general fund.
Yeah, so by adding streetlights and traffic lights and a couple other things as part of the annual budget, we've had about $150,000 surplus every year for the past 3 or 4 years, which has allowed us to build up to $580,000 of money that we'll be able to put towards paving. But by adding those other annual costs and pulling them out of the general fund, that'll start to use down the annual. And my goal would actually be to find enough on an annual basis to at least come really close to the liquid fuels budget. And that frees up that money. If we do have excess because there aren't enough street light expenditures and such, especially as we go net metering with the additional solar, as we get repriced for all the LED lighting that is no longer sodium arc, I expect our lighting costs to actually drop. So if we do have extra, then we can build up over a couple of years, pick up another 200,000 over, say, 3 or 4 years, and then again, put it towards a road project, because putting 20,000 towards a road project doesn't necessarily make sense. But building up $150,000 at a time also doesn't make sense.
Just for clarification, it doesn't make sense because there's so much paperwork involved. That's why we want to have a big chunk of paving done in 1 year.
Correct.
Does that conclude your manager's update?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Committee business, I guess we don't have the Siemens invoice ready, so that concludes finance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Erbaldinger. We will move on then to Committee of the Whole. May we have the manager's update, Mr. Abram?
I misplaced my first page. Just a reminder, I think we are down to one person that still needs to get their email changed over.
I've called and I have called and they have not returned my calls. I have.
Okay, I will check in with Sean and Greg, because they did get the other outlier just recently.
Recently.
Yes.
It says call and I've called.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Okay.
Maybe we've got a scheduling conflict.
The other piece is we had discussed last Thursday, I did have our first meeting with code enforcement with Amanda, Natalie, and Alex from the COG. Natalie kind of acting as the program manager, and Amanda as the executive director, and Alex as the code enforcement officer manager for the group. And he did report to me that usually on the first or second day is when he actually sends the report, which everyone has on the first 3 pages, right behind the cow, is the number of cases open, cases closed, new violations, number of events logged. I did not put in occupancy reports. They only did 2. And that honestly for 2 just seemed to be a waste of paper. This month, because it was the first month, it looks, you may not see it, but it actually looks a little bit odd because we have cases that opened and cases that continue in the same time because they were new and if they weren't closed. The other piece is the entire department was out with COVID at the end of the month.
Oh.
So we actually did have more cases closed than 3, but they are running it true to date. So even if they're confident that it was done, if nobody went and observed it before August 31st, that it was closed, they did not close it. They will have marked it closed on September 3rd or 4th when they actually observe that it's in compliance. So September, we'll see a lot of these get closed. The other piece that I just want to note is they do put out, and that's where you'll see on new cases and continuing cases on the by street. They pretty much all match up except for the couple that were closed because they were new and continuing in the same month. if these same cases, if this one case in Ardmore still exists in September, new cases will be 0, continuing cases will be 1. And then we took the violation types and you can see where the activity was. Right now, their focus is obviously a combination. They're responding to all complaints, but then a lot of the things are also, they're just seeing on their drive-bys. I think there's a way in reporting. If not, I can ask Alex to at least note, once we get things a little better under control and understanding, to know which ones are complaint driven versus which ones are ones that are in violation, but nobody seems to be complaining about, because that could also direct our overall zoning and ordinance issues. If he's seeing things that nobody seems to care about, or if everyone seems to care about something, vice versa. So it could be useful data to have. It may or may not result in any future changes.
You have any idea what general responsibility means?
No, that is actually, I mean, I could look it up in the property maintenance code, but that is really kind of a generic category. And unless I dug into each one of those in depth to see what the specific was within the IPMC code, that's a generic.
I lost sound.
I'm sorry, Marcus, I was just saying, I think that's just a catch-all, so they don't have to add 4 additional categories, because it's just related to some minor issue, or not a minor issue, but a different separate issue, and they just put it into that bucket, is what I'm guessing. But we can ask them.
That concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Abrams. May we have the solicitor's report?
Just, yesterday at some point, it was a long, I was in Bedford Springs most of the day and working on this. I think at the end of the day, sometime last night, I sent a final version after a bunch of feedback. So I think it's in pretty good shape. It's there. Comments, questions, let me know. Otherwise, unless there are any objections, it should be teed up for the agenda next week.
Just to clarify, because I don't think you actually said it in the microphone, we're discussing the room use
The room
policy.
policy, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes,
I got
if
that.
anybody's watching. So other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Thank you, Mr. Corbel. Then we will move on with consideration of Gerald Savage as a member of the Arts and Culture Advisory Council. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
You. Consideration of Carla Booz as a member, is that how you say it?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, as a member of the Arts and Culture Advisory Council?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Okay. Consideration of Graham Byers as a member of the Arts and Culture Advisory Council?
Yes.
Question?
I
Does it
couldn't
mean we're
find
now full?
anything.
Oh.
I didn't find any emails about his materials.
I forwarded that back to you after you asked me about it, and it was actually sent to all the council on September 4th. But I also forwarded it to you this afternoon.
Okay. I'm gonna double check because I just checked email and don't have that or anything else from him.
Is
That's
everybody,
my only objection. Is just want to make sure we all had the full material first.
is everybody okay? Marcus, you have your hand up?
I'm okay. I just want to clarify. I think now we are full, or we have enough members now to be fully 7 members, or we still want.
I think there's 3 slots for alternates as well. So this would
Okay.
be a full council then.
Yep.
Okay. So are we okay then with Graham Byers?
Yes.
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 Okay, then consideration of Brian McGann as a member of the Tree and Shrub Advisory Committee. He had applied a while back, and just with all the changeover of staff, he sort of slipped through the cracks, but we're doing it right tonight. So is everybody okay with Mr. McGann?
Yeah,
That's fine.
Yes, thank you. Okay, let's see. I have no report. Thing from the EAC.
I do not have anything from the EAC. The only other thing that I would like to note is I will be sending along one other referral for committee, and that is David Wallace. Today delivered a letter of interest to the Tree and Shrub Committee, so I'll be actually emailing that to everyone later this evening, and unless there is voiced objection, I will be adding that to the agenda for next Wednesday.
Everybody okay with that?
No objection.
Okay, well, that looks like the end of the meeting. The meeting is closed. Thank you. Thank God, Marcus. Oh, yeah.